Hello and welcome to Oddspedia Premier League Match Day 4. Remember, we said goodbye to the Premier League with Liverpool thrashing Man United at Old Trafford, and we say hello to Tom Rennie with a Southampton Man United. 𝗀𝗏𝗏 is always in trouble, Tom Rennie.
Yeah, I saw a great tweet a few days ago who said, let's stop calling him Erik ten Hag. We should start calling him Erik Tender Resignation, which I thought was quite good. So I might run with that moving forward.
Let's see if the Red Devils are able to win in St Mary's. We have also North London Derby, Tottenham, Arsenal. So stay tuned. We are happy to be back with our Premier League show. I hope you are as well. So leave your comments. Of course, show us some love. Press the like, subscribe. Let's go on now with the show. And the early kickoff on Saturday is Southampton Man United. Experts say never bet on early kickoffs. There are a lot of surprises. So if you are looking for a surprise, Southampton to win is 4.7, but be careful, of course, still 0 points. The only win was in the Carabao Cup against Cardiff City, lost all 3 games, scoring only 1 goal. But I guess, Tom, we have to talk about Man United. They were pitiful against Liverpool. We saw Casemiro looking really, really bad in this game. So what Ten Hag needs to change for this one or for the season?
Well, look, I think the Man United haven't started that badly, right? I think that in terms of the Fulham game, I think they were quite good, actually, at points. You could see what they were trying to do. You could see where some of the development was. And if they took the chances better in the game, they probably would have won it. And you can see in the second half against Brighton, some of the taking advantage of the high line that Brighton had, the 𝗀𝗏𝗄𝐿 goal, if that was given, it's a totally different world. And I think in the first couple of weeks, it's evident they've been just bringing de Ligt in slowly. And of course, 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is signed, hasn't played yet. Will he be fit for this? Having been away on international duty, probably not from the start, but I'd expect minutes. So they're all coming in little piece by little piece. You know, there's still no Rasmus Højlund, we don't think, for this game. So it'll be 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 or Bruno Fernandes false 9, which has not quite worked. But I think there are kind of green shoots. And I think over the next few weeks, if it was a new manager, and it wasn't someone who'd been there for so long, we might be a bit like, yeah, you can see it. You can see where they're going to go for when Luke Shaw comes back, when Mazraoui is playing, when it's de Ligt, when it's Lisandro Martinez, when it's 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 alongside 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, when it's a front three of probably Rasmus Højlund and then replaced by 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the game, with a pick of a selection of pretty decent wingers. I'd probably say their best 2 currently are 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Amad Diallo, but maybe Marcus Rashford makes a miraculous career recovery. So I think there's positives there. And I think you can see they're a pretty solid team. I know that the fact they've conceded 2 against Brighton and 3 against Liverpool doesn't suggest that so much. But I think with de Ligt coming in, and I think he will from the start, having played for Holland during international break, they will look more solid defensively. I think they'll start with Casemiro and they'll bring in 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 around the hour mark. That'll keep a freshness in central midfield alongside 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 that's been missing. And they play a team this weekend in Southampton who have just not been very good on their promotion to the Premier League. I mean, I mentioned this to you in the very first week. I don't think this is as bad a trio coming up as we had last season, which was the worst 3 we ever had come up together in the Premier League. They were truly nowhere near good enough. And I don't know whether that's because of the inequality of wealth between Championship and Premier League getting worse and worse and worse, or it was just happenstance. I don't know the reason, really. But this is close to that. The 3 that have come up, I can't see any justification to say Southampton are going to get 30 points, let alone the 34 needed to be competitive in terms of staying in the league. I like the signing of Aaron Ramsdale. I think he's a good shot stopper, and I think he'll get a lot of confidence from this season from playing games, getting lots of Man of the Match awards. And he made a couple of decent saves in the 3-1 loss against Brentford. Beyond that, some of the playing out from the back they're trying to do. I know managers have got philosophies, and I know managers quite rightly think that just tossing the ball into midfield for a flick on isn't the be-all and end-all of the goalkeeper having it, right? I get that. Everyone gets that now. But there's also making the right decisions. When you're doing it, you need to make sure you get it right. And the amount of time Southampton with Jan Bednarek and 𝗷𝗲𝗿𝗲 and Jack Stevens and Will Smallbone got it wrong against Brentford. It was ludicrous how many times they got it wrong against Brentford, but they'll continue to do it. And I think that'll be their undoing. I don't know when Southampton are going to win a game. I certainly don't think it's going to be in this one. I think they have a poor defence beyond the goalkeeper. And I think United have an attack that is going to come good at some point against someone. I think this is going to be the big Ten Hag is back match for Manchester United. So I'd go for United to win. It's quite low odds to see them win. So maybe look at the handicap market. I think a 2-0 victory for Man United does not seem a wild prediction here. At a minus 1.5, you get that at 2.88. That's very nearly 2-1. It's still a bit conservative, but that's a near double your money bet for a 2-0 win for Manchester United against a newly promoted side who've not won a game yet. Can't quite believe that. So I'll definitely take that. If you're slightly going a bit more adventurous, look at minus 2.5. That makes 3-0 or above. That brings you to around 3.5 or above. So I quite like that. I think United win 2-0. They win comfortably and they score goals.
Well, 𝗀𝐻𝐿 even scored in the international break, so he had a good start of the season. Let's see if Man United can wake up in Southampton. We stay in the South Coast, Brighton, Ipswich. What an impact or what an arrival to the Premier League for the manager, Fabian Hürzeler. It was a risky move, I guess, from the board, signing the St. Pauli manager in the post-debt service area, but 7 points, even got a draw against Arsenal. Remember that they even beat Man United at home in their only home game so far this season. Ipswich finally, or their first point of the season came against Fulham. Really low odds to back Brighton. I guess everyone is backing Brighton in this game.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great game this, I think of all the games the weekend, this is the one where I'd expect goals. Because I think these are two teams that are going to be attack first. And I think they will leave high lines on both sides to exploit with pace over the top and down the sides. In terms of Brighton, definitely better than we expected. How many years are we all going to underestimate Brighton? And then they're going to be fantastic for 5 or 6 weeks, win 3 out of 6, win 5 out of 10. And we think, oh, actually, they're obviously going to finish in the top half. They keep on doing it. They may well do it again this season. I think in Minte and Mitoma, they've added the balance they lost when Solly March got injured last season. I think in 𝐵𝗷𝗵𝗲, they probably had one of the best players in the Premier League the opening 3 weeks of the season. He's been fantastic. He links the play. He scores the goals. He takes the penalties. This is a really developing, mature player that you'd love to have in your team and can play various positions. And the amazing thing is, like, first week of the season, they've got Billy Gilmour, who's now been sold to Napoli, playing in midfield alongside James Milner. They have another player coming who gets injured. They now have 𝗵𝗲𝗲 starting, who was fantastic against Arsenal. And so, again, we keep underestimating Brighton and Hove Albion. And maybe, I think it's Matthew O'Reilly, maybe it's Mats Wiefer. They'll come back in. There's a possibility that Wiefer might come back in, but maybe not. It doesn't seem to matter whether first-team players get injured because their replacement comes in and does the exact same job. So really impressed with them. And I think they have goals all over their team. There is a way Brighton at home in recent years have swarmed the opposition. And you can see Ipswich, newly promoted team, newly put together team in a lot of ways with new signings, might get swarmed by pace and power with Henselwood, Mitoma on one side, with Minte on the other, with 𝗵𝗵𝗲 and Danny Welbeck, all in good form. I think Brighton will score goals in this game. I'd feel reasonably confident. Any bet you put on here, Brighton will score at least 2 goals in this match. So I would certainly look at the over market here. And I would also look at it because Ipswich can score goals. Liam Delap's been fantastic. They brought in Smodic from Blackburn Rovers, top scorer in the Championship last season. He knows where the goal is. Already scored this season away at City. Of course, that was City's game in many ways, but what a story that was for him personally. Amari Hutchinson, Ogbene, pace on either side. So lots of positives. I think defensively, I've liked the look of Greaves, who they've signed from Hull City. I think he looks a good player. But if they start 𝗵𝗆 in goal, that's the issue for me with Ipswich. They signed 𝗵𝗆, the goalkeeper who was at Burnley last season, and he's already been absolutely hapless in every game I've seen. So, Southampton signing Ramsdale, Ipswich signing Muric could be a turning point if those two are going to be battling for 18th and 17th this season. You've got one goalkeeper who's going to save a lot. You've got another in Muric who couldn't catch a cold. So I think both teams can score. I've mentioned players that I like. I think there's going to be high lines on both sides. Pick Brighton, go the over. Brighton over 3.5 goals in this match brings you in at 2.88. Look at the over 4.5 market as well. Very daring, I know. That'll bring you in over double your money. And look at Brighton to score at least 2 goals in any scenario here. Do that, and there's money to be made.
Well, Brighton to win is only 1.4, really favorites to win this game. Let's stay in the south of London. In this case, Crystal Palace, Leicester City, both teams with only 1 point. You were not buying the hype for Oliver Glasner when he did a great end of the season with Crystal Palace, and now Palace are struggling a little bit in this start, lost to West Ham and Brentford, but grabbed a point in Stamford Bridge when we expected Chelsea to win. Leicester, another defeat, Tom, against Aston Villa. In this case, the only point was at home against Tottenham.
When we get there, just remind me that betting on Chelsea is impossible. Okay, yeah. Just remind me. You'd think I'd have learned this after a year of doing this, but no, that was a shocker. Anyway, look, Crystal Palace actually played pretty good in that game, and to your point, I think the issue with Oliver Glasner is that he came into a good squad that was massively underperforming. They weren't listening to the manager. Players weren't fit. They lost Eze and 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵 for months and months and months. 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 in midfield for months and months and months. And there was a feeling of depression around the place. He came in. He said, let's play some football. We ain't going down. There's more to it than that. But that was the vibe of what Oliver Glasner brought in. And it was fantastic. They've since lost 𝗿𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵. And it's a little bit like, oh, okay. Well, let's just mark Eze then, which is very tough to do. He's been fantastic. Jean-Philippe Mateta's been good, but not in the goal-scoring glut of last season. It was great to see 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 come back in last week for Will Hughes in central midfield. Going to be a huge lift to have Wharton and 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 in central midfield. But back three, Klein, Richards, 𝐴𝐵𝐵, having sold Anderson. I'm not sure that defensive three. In the end, the Premier League is all about the quality of the players. In the end, it's the players' competition. That's a poor back three. That is not a good set of defensive-minded players with 𝘻𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵 and 𝗀𝐻𝐼 on the other side. That's going to be the undoing of Palace in the end. They've got 1 or 2 good players. They don't have enough good players to win enough games across the season. So I think that will cost them. In terms of Leicester, it's a similar story to what we mentioned already with Ipswich and Southampton. The squad's not good enough. I think it's maybe, potentially, the weakest of the 3, Leicester City, because they didn't invest massively during the summer. A midfield of Harry Winks and Oliver Skipp. Shades of Tottenham Hotspur's youth team from 10 years ago in central midfield. Jamie Vardy at 38, still your lead striker. I'm not a big fan of 𝗷𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 at centre-half. He's all right, but I just think it's a championship squad. It's a championship squad with 1 or 2 veterans in it. Didn't invest particularly well. And I think they'll battle and fight. And I quite fancied them against Villa a couple of weeks ago to put in a good performance. They did. They lost the game as we predicted, but we did think that they were going to give their fans something to shout about, which they will in home games. Away from home, I don't see it. I think Palace will win this quite comfortably, actually. They're not going to thrash Leicester City. I don't think that's really in Palace right now, but they look established. They look like a team with 𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗏𝗏 and Wharton who are going to have the best midfield. In Mateta and 𝗿𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐵, they've got the best attackers. And defensively, they both look a bit suspect, but I just wonder who's going to score goals for Leicester City. So take Palace win, relatively low odds. This screams group bet, 1-0, 2-0, 2-1. That's 2.88. Really like that. And look at Mateta to score and Eze to score and combine that with a Palace win. Pick one, not both. That'll double your money. Palace win comfortably, but low scoring.
I thought you were going to say screams draw, Crystal Palace. Leicester City, perhaps Fulham West Ham is a good chance to bet on draws. At least the bookies tell us so, because Fulham, they are still slightly favorites, 2.5. West Ham to win, 2.9. The draw is 3.5. So all the outcomes have really high odds. Fulham 4 points, beat Leicester in their only home game. West Ham beat Palace in their only away game. We saw the classic 3-1 against City. If someone was watching our show, Tom, they would have made a lot of money with Haaland to score and the 3-1 that you predicted.
Yes, an accurate prediction of West Ham getting beaten is like my entire wheelhouse. I can tell you how they get beat every week if they're going to get beat. I mean, look, in terms of Fulham, I think against Man United opening day, they played really well at points. Against Ipswich in the second game, they played well at points. There has been moments for Fulham this year where they've impressed. Against Leicester in the victory they had, it was all right at times. I think that 𝗛𝗲𝗄𝐻 has had a nice burst at the start of the season. It won't last, but it's nice to see him fulfilling some of that potential we've been waiting 15 years to see. I think that in 𝗻𝐿𝐵𝗿𝗲 and Smith Rowe and Pereira, they've got a lot of really good Premier League campaigners, and that's good, and that'll keep you up. But it won't get you consistent performances every single week from players that have dropped down the ladder for the reason that they're 1 in 3 players. They're not 1-on-1 players. They're not going to give you the same big performances every week. So on their day, Fulham could be fantastic, but I think that there's inconsistency in those players, and the quality of people that come in drop the caliber of the starting 11 significantly. Tom Cairney was a great player. He's now got too old. Raul Jimenez was a great player. He's never quite come back to the quality he once was. Rodrigo Muniz up front had that amazing run of form last season. This season looks a little bit like that may have been a flash in the pan. And defensively too, 𝐿𝐵𝗵𝗵𝐻 is really rubbish. Like, I'm sorry, he is just not a Premier League quality defender. Every week I watch this guy and think, what is happening here? Sometimes, you know, like it seems like a player has got through the net and you're a little bit like, we're all seeing this, right? Like defensively poor, positionally bad, don't know what he is, not a leader. And alongside Issa Diop, he needs to be led without Tim Ream, who's gone to the US. I think 𝐿𝐵𝗵𝗵𝗵𝗻 has struggled and will struggle, though I do like Robinson and Tete. In terms of West Ham, look, I think it's tough to judge them on their 2 home games. One was against Man City, where they were actually brilliant for 20 minutes, start of the second half, until Gundogan came on and sort of changed the game back in City's favour. I thought West Ham were fantastic against City. First half, they could have been 8-0 down. Let's get that right. So, you know, but they were in the game, which was impressive. Against Palace, they deserved to win. And against Villa on the opening day, that was a swinger that could have gone either way. So West Ham over the next few weeks are going to be really, really interesting. I like the look of them, I've got to say. I like the look of Kudus and Bowen. They both started the season in fantastic form. I don't know about Alvarez and Rodriguez in central midfield, but I think that it'll be probably Carlos Soler and Alvarez in midfield for this one, with Lucas Paqueta, who's been really poor the first few weeks of the season, maybe making way for Rodriguez at some point during the game. And hopefully Jean-Claude Todibo is going to be fit, because Mavropanos remains all over the shop in central defence. They want Todibo and Kilman. Hopefully, for West Ham's sake, that'll be the case. Wan-Bissaka been fantastic as well since coming in. So, look, I think West Ham have a better squad. I think West Ham have a feeling of positivity about them. I think they're able to keep a clean sheet in a game like this. And I also think they can score goals. So I think it does look like it might well be a draw, and I don't discount that. But if you're looking for a winner, go for West Ham United and go West Ham to win with Jarrod Bowen scoring. He has started this campaign really, really well. He's been great for West Ham. He was really good when he came on for England. He's the captain of West Ham. There is a buzz around Jarrod Bowen right now. He is the best player on the field for either team, with Mohamed Kudus the second best player on the team, or in both teams. So they have the best players. They have the best attack. They have the best defence. They will go to Fulham. And I'd bet West Ham to win, 2.75 to win. Bowen to score with it, and you'll double your money and more.
Bowen scored in the Premier League, scored also in the Carabao Cup, so he's in form. Don't touch any Brazilian player, no matter if it's Paquetá, Casemiro, Vinicius. They are absolutely rubbish in this start of the season. But touch Colombian players. For instance, Luis Diaz is a good option for him to score, or Salah also on fire, because we are going to talk about Liverpool at Anfield. Liverpool, Nottingham Forest, perfect start in the post-Klopp era. We saw a great Liverpool against Man United, no goals conceded yet in the Premier League, so 9 out of 9, perfect for them, also with Diogo Jota, a player that you really like. Also great start for Nottingham Forest. The game screamed draw against Wolves, and it was a draw. All 3 games were under 2.5 goals for Forest. What do you expect here?
I don't expect under here. I think most Forest games will be under because Nuno is a very conservative coach, and he's got this Forest team really well drilled. There's some really good players. So I think going forward, I think they're going to get more than enough points to stay in the league and maybe better. But in this one, yeah, going to struggle. They're going to struggle because Liverpool are just so good. And I'd forgotten just how close Liverpool were to being in the title race last season, because we've all been, understandably, drawn into the whole Arsenal City narrative of it all, right? But Liverpool were in the title race with like 6 games to go last season, having already won the Carabao Cup, Klopp's final season, all of that. And injuries took their toll and all of that, and they couldn't keep the pace. No one's injured now. And you're starting with a front group of Luis Diaz, Diogo Jota, and Mo Salah. Salah looks better than he has for maybe 3 seasons right now. He looks so sharp and fit and ready and fresh, and maybe just being spoken to by a new coaching staff has given him a lease of life. That does happen to all of us. We need a change as good as a rest. And that seems to have worked for Mo Salah. Midfield, McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai, fantastic in the victory at Old Trafford. And defensively, he hasn't changed. But you forget, they lost Robertson for so much of last season. They lost Alexander-Arnold for long stretches of last season. Konaté has been fit, then he's out. Fit, then he's out. And Van Dijk has struggled at times for form. All of that's gone. This is Klopp's 11, fully fit, in form, ready to go, with a new manager who's giving them new ideas, new tweaks. He's a very... He's very too strong. He's a different type of manager. He is a tactical manager as opposed to Jurgen Klopp, who barely changed the tactics in games ever. You know, apart from occasionally inverting Alexander-Arnold, didn't really do anything to change the way Liverpool played. He just got them revved and doing everything they had to do perfectly, and ball over the top to Salah, and you're screwed. You know, I think they're a bit more subtle now, Liverpool, under the manager they currently have. That's going to be tough for the league to cope with. I don't think it's the deepest squad, but with the team being fit, they can thrash absolutely anybody. And just briefly on Forest, I won't do too much on them this week because they don't really have much of a chance here, I don't think. But I do like Murillo and Milinkovic-Savic as a centre-half. I think they've been really, really good. I do really like Morgan Gibbs-White, as you know. I think he's absolutely fantastic. Chris Wood scoring goals, you know, looks like he's found the right manager, the right time in his career, fit as well. So loads of positives around Forest. And I think in people like Elliot Anderson, they have spent well in the summer. Good, solid Premier League campaigners for Nottingham Forest. They'll sit deep. They'll try and hold on. They won't be able to do so. Go for Liverpool to win this comfortably. Look at your handicap market here. Minus 2.5 is 250. It's okay. Nearly double your money. Look at Salah to score and Liverpool to win. That's not great either. It's 2. But I do like Salah to score last. Salah to score the last goal in this game. That on its own is 4. Double that with a Liverpool win. There's big money to be made. And what will happen here is Liverpool will score 1. It'll be tight. It'll be tight. It'll be tight. We'll get to 75 minutes and they'll score 2, maybe 3 in those late minutes. Tired legs, high line. Who's the best player in the world to capitalize on that? In this form, it's Mo Salah. So look at Salah scoring last.
Well, McAllister also scored in international duty, with Argentina having a good start of the season. Liverpool is still 3rd favourite in the title race, behind Man City and Arsenal. By the way, Man City to win the Premier League is 2.15 at this stage of the season, which is very good, in my opinion. Let's talk about Man City playing at home against Brentford. As always, there is no value on Man City to win. It's only 1 5.2, but perhaps we should go to the scorers markets, to the individual markets. You were completely spot on with Haaland against West Ham, and already 7 goals. In this season, he's even scoring for Norway, which is not normal. Liverpool are playing, by the way, in the Champions League against Milan, a great game. Man City against Inter, also a great game. They have a midweek. Great start also for Brentford, Tom. 6 points, beating Southampton and Crystal Palace at home. As always, they make themselves strong when they are playing at home.
Yeah, look, I mean, they had some good fixtures as well, right? That's a really good one, too, to have if you Brentford first couple of weeks of the season. And they'll be all right, Brentford. No chance of relegation at all. I think Brian 𝗵𝗲𝗏 being back is paramount to their possibilities this season because he's so good, so skillful, scorer, assister. One of the best players in that position in the league. He's up there for me with Jarrod Bowen and not Mo Salah, but, you know, in that group of the better players in that position, attacking wide right, coming in, shooting. He's fantastic. He's a top 5 player in the league in that position. But look, I won't spend too much time on Brentford here because you know what they're going to do. They're going to hold on and try and hit on the break, and there's a possibility they may score 1 goal. City often do spit up 1 goal in a game like this, and if anyone's going to get it, it'll be 𝗵𝗵𝗏 because he is their best attacking player. I like 𝗀𝗏 as well, but it's 𝗵𝗏𝗏 I'd want it to fall to, and I think he'll be the highest player for that ball over the top should it happen. In terms of Man City, they've just started the season so well. I mean, I mentioned the West Ham game. I went to it a couple of weeks ago, and first half, they were utterly dominant. Just so good against a pretty decent West Ham team. Could have been maybe 6 or 7 up. West Ham then got control of the game, really impressively, for 25 minutes or so. And what Guardiola has done so well during his time there is read the game, but then he has the resource to fix it when he's diagnosed the problem. And his solution was to bring on 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝗏𝗀, who, you know, I think most people are quite surprised Barcelona were happy to let him go. I know it's financial issues and all of that, but he was so good last season. And he comes on, and there was a moment I was watching thinking, Mateo Kovacic, Kevin De Bruyne, 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝗏𝗀, all plus 30, all maybe just past the peak of their absolute best. But they're such campaigners, such pros. That's over 1,000 games and multiple titles with multiple clubs under their belts. And the 3 of them just took control of the game. West Ham couldn't get it off them. You throw Bernardo Silva into that mix. You throw a through ball into Erling Haaland into the mix to make it 3-1. And they took a game against West Ham that actually, for a while, looked a bit dodgy. They could have been in some trouble. And then suddenly they won. So how do they win this game? Well, look at the handicap market. Obviously, I was quite surprised that minus 2.5 is 2.25. That feels quite long for a City 3-0 victory, which is not beyond the realms of possibility. It's quite low still compared to most teams. But for City, I thought that was quite good. Minus 3.5 is 4. That's a 4-0 winner above. I don't feel wildly confident on that, but that's the first handicap you'll find where you'll make some serious money. I'd look at the minus 2.5, not 3.5, but I'll give you that for reference. And Haaland's already scored 2 hat-tricks this season, back-to-back hat-tricks. You can get that. I looked this morning. It depends on where you're looking, right? Be it Oddspedia, be it individual bookies you like, whatever. Best I could find this morning, trawling the market, was 7-1 for a hat-trick. 7-1. What are you talking about? Now, what are you talking about? So, look for the Haaland hat-trick market. It might be worth a punt just for fun. Also, look at the shots market too. I don't normally get too into the weeds on this sort of thing, but if you have Haaland to have 6 shots and City win, it also brings you above double your money. He's scoring hat-tricks. I think he had 5 shots against West Ham last week, so it would just be under that, but against Brentford at home, I think he'll have more.
Well, perhaps we see some time over, no? Thinking in the Champions League, they were playing international duty. We saw Kevin De Bruyne or Bernardo Silva complaining about the schedule. I think they were completely right. Of course, they are playing every 3 days, but it's always worth it to check the Haaland to score market or to score a hat-trick. This week is about favorites. Tom, playing at home. It should be an easy one for a home 𝐻𝐴. Let's see at the end of the video your 𝐻𝐴. And another favorite is Aston Villa, playing at Villa Park. Aston Villa, Everton, the only team with 0 points and 10 goals conceded, looking awful. How can you lose a game when you are leading 2-0 almost at injury time and at home against Bournemouth? And They conceded 3 goals in the last 5 minutes. Aston Villa, 6 points, winning away from home. And remember, they are back to the Champions League, playing against young boys.
Let's start briefly with Aston Villa, because I could do Everton for about 3 hours, and when I start, I don't know if I'll stop. Really impressed by them first few weeks of the season. I know they didn't do the win over Arsenal they did last season. This season they lost the game, but I was really impressed by them at points. Morgan Rogers scoring for the under-21s for England a couple of days ago at Kenilworth Road. He's fantastic. Youri Tielemans and Onana in midfield have a perfect balance by the look of it. John McGinn's a terrier. Pau Torres, for me, low-key, been the best centre-half in the league so far this season. And you know, I could go on. I'm so impressed by everything they're doing. The only element for Villa that's not gone amazing is Ollie Watkins has not started the season well. He has struggled in all the games that Villa have played so far. The good news is in John Duran, they maybe have the best and most effective substitute in the league. Every game he comes on and he has an impact. He comes off the bench and scores goals. He was involved in Colombia's goal a couple of days ago in World Cup qualifying from the bench, and scored against Leicester. Amazing header. Scored against West Ham. Good finish to win that one. So I think that they may well look to start Duran here. Even though he has such a big impact from the bench, he's playing phenomenally well, and Watkins is really struggling. That's the only thing really worth noting on Aston Villa. Beyond that, full, clean bill of health going into this one and the young boys game in midweek. For Everton, I don't know whether they watch our videos on Oddspedia, but I did back Bournemouth to win at Goodison Park, and it wasn't coming off in the 86th minute. That was going to ruin our 𝐿𝐴𝐶𝐿. That was going to ruin my belief in Bournemouth. But so I don't know whether they did it to please me, but it did please me in a way because it meant I was right. But how on earth they lost that game? I've actually watched the whole game back because it was on the telly and I thought, I've got to watch this. I didn't get to watch the whole thing live. You know, I was watching other things. But I watched it back, and for 80 minutes, they're in total control, dominating the ball, creating chances, not giving up a chance, looking in total control. To collapse from that, to lose 3-2, I have never seen anything like it. I've seen scores get overturned. I've seen teams who should win lose, right? We all have. I've never seen a team dominate a match and be in total control at home in the 86th minute against, at best, a mid-table team, then lose it 3-2. It was jaw-dropping what happened against Bournemouth. The football world remains in total shock about what happened. And even people might be like, oh, typical Everton. It wasn't. Even Everton don't really do this. Nobody does this. And I'm at a loss to tell you exactly what happened, to be honest. I think that, you know, people have pointed out that he brought on 𝗶𝗶𝗏 for 𝗛𝗏𝗏, who was maybe their best player on the day. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it didn't have a positive impact, but I'm not sure it had the negative impact to lead to the scoreline that happened. I don't know how they recover. The very best you can hope for is to wipe it from your memory like it never, ever happened. I think there's a possibility here that they might start looking at taking Michael Keane out and replacing him in central defence. There's a possibility here they might look at what they're going to do in terms of the midfield. 𝗵𝗵𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏𝗏. I'd probably look at a way to get 𝗶𝗶𝗏 back into the team as opposed to maybe 𝗵𝗶𝗏𝗏 who can't get around. But look, the tactics are set. They'll low block. They'll look for corners. They'll work the channel. They want Calvert-Lewin into battering ram. And they'll hope he can knock it down to Harrison and McNeil, whoever it is in that trio, to try and score a goal. As ever with Everton, the only thing I'll bet on is them to score from a corner. It's one of the safest bets if they've scored a goal that it's from a corner. So look at the James Tarkowski, Michael Keane scoring market. It was Keane last week. But Villa are going to win this. Villa win to 0 is 2.5. Villa win with a minus 2.5 handicap. That's 3-0 or more. Brings you in double your money. And John Duran to score last. Done it against Leicester. Done it against West Ham. One of the most effective scorers from the bench in Premier League history. To score last, which he's done in 2 of 3 games this season, is 5.5. Really like that. So Villa win. Look at your handicaps. Look at win to 0. And Duran scores the final goal.
Poor Everton, indeed. 10 goals conceded in only 3 games. Next game is Bournemouth-Chelsea. You said you won't bet on Chelsea anymore. It's not worth it. or is worth it to go for surprises? It keeps surprising us, no matter if they are winning comfortably, thrashing Wolverhampton, or now dropping points against Crystal Palace. Remember that their only away game was a 6-2 win in Wolverhampton, but be careful because Bournemouth, they are doing great things. 5 points is a good start. As we said, beating Everton, but also drawing with Newcastle and Nottingham. Big news also seeing Pochettino in the US national team.
Yeah, I think that Pochettino, as we've discussed previously, deserved to stay on at Chelsea, but I think he had enough of them and they had enough of him. I think the players would have liked him to stay at another club with another structure. His last season would have been seen as a relative success. And I think, what a time to be in charge of the USA. World Cup coming up, really good group of young players who are coming towards the peak of their careers, but need guidance after the mess of hiring Greg Berhalter, sacking Greg Berhalter, hiring Greg Berhalter, sacking Greg Berhalter. What a mess they've made of it. But to attract Pochettino, well done to everyone at the USA, and I wish him well for that. I think it's going to be an incredible moment in his life to be in charge of the USA at a home World Cup with all these quality players. So that's going to be fantastic. And look, in terms of this game, I think you're right to say Bournemouth have been good. I think they have been good. This is not a great squad, okay? I keep saying this, but the Premier League is all about quality of player first. Then the second thing is tactics and coaching. Other leagues aren't the same. But the Premier League is the money league. It's the wages league. There is no way that Ever Nielsen or Kluivert ever dreamed of living in Bournemouth. Lovely place that it is, but they go there because Bournemouth can pay better wages than Milan, right? That's the appeal of the Premier League and has been for many, many, many years. And long may it continue. But I do think that in Andoni Iraola, they've got a really good balanced team. I think they've got a coach that everyone listens to. I think that Ever Nielsen has done well in the opening couple of weeks to fill that void vacated by Dominic Solanke. And I think that the balance of having Semenyo, Kluivert and Tavernier behind him gives defences something to think about. I think in Christie and Cook, they have a hard-working, if limited, central midfield. So lots to like about Bournemouth. And at home, in front of 10,000 fans at the Vitality, they can beat anybody, which they've proved time and time and time again. Don't know if Kepa's an upgrade on Neto, who's gone to Arsenal, but I do think, 3 years ago, how many years ago? 4 years ago, Kepa Arrizabalaga was the most expensive goalkeeper in the world. He's now playing at Bournemouth. And I think that's a real coup for Bournemouth, as opposed to a criticism of Kepa. He was literally in goal for Real Madrid start of last season, right? Again, we can talk about how good it went, but he was. And now he's at Bournemouth. So a great get for them. And I hope he's able to rebuild his career. In terms of Chelsea, I don't know. I said it to you earlier. I don't know. I think that as the weeks go on and the manager picks his core group, which he has, they will improve. They're going to finish in the top 6 this season. And in Cole Palmer, they've got one of the best players in the Premier League in terms of numbers, consistency, creation and goals. So they have everything there. But then the last game against Palace, when it started going against them, when it was kind of hands to the pump time, they didn't have those senior players, those Thiago types to see them through. And in the end, Palace probably could have won that late on as the game went on. If Chelsea get 3-0 up, they'll win. In every game, they can get 3-0 up. But there's every chance that at 1-0, they're going to start to wobble because it's a very inexperienced team with an inexperienced manager, with a set of players who might still need name tags on to recognise each other. Worth noting here, Chelsea, 3 games, 7 scored, 5 conceded. Bournemouth, 3 games, 5 scored, 4 conceded. That tells me there's going to be goals at both ends in this game. So look at both teams to score because that has happened for these teams multiple times. Lots of goals at both ends. We had a 3-2 and a 6-2 in the last couple of games they have played. I'm going to just pick for Chelsea. If you're looking at the both teams to score market, I can see it being similar to the Wolverhampton Wanderers game. I think Bournemouth will score at least 1, maybe 2. I think Chelsea can score 2, maybe 3. That's Chelsea winning both teams to score at 3.25. I was surprised on its own just to see Bournemouth win at 3.2. Double your money for a Bournemouth home win where they've been very, very good against an inconsistent team. So I don't discount that. If you fancy Bournemouth, just take it. But look at the goal scoring market. Look at above 2.5. Look at above 3.5. Double that with a Chelsea win, and there's money to be made here.
Hopefully we see a thriller here. Another goalkeeper for Chelsea, talking about Kepa, if they don't have Enough, by the way, very late this game, 8 p.m. Local time is going to be the starting time for Bournemouth, Chelsea. And for Sunday, 2 more games. North London Derby, best game of this weekend. Remember, Arsenal won here last season, 3-2. Also the previous one, 2-0. But now they are coming with a lot of injury concerns. Calafiori and Odegaard are supposed to be out. Declan Rice is suspended. They are coming from the draw against Brighton, so could be a tricky one against Spurs. Fans are eager to see a good result against their enemies. Well, you remember last season they were against their home team.
This is such a great game. Yeah? This is such a great game. I mean, Arsenal's start to this season in terms of fixtures is horrendous. You know, you look at City having a nice dolly fixture against Brentford or Ipswich or even West Ham away, which is relatively tough, but it's still quite a nice little away game compared to what Arsenal have had. Gone to Villa, won it, got to City next week or the week after, and Tottenham away. You know, there aren't many games Arsenal are going to lose this season. There's relatively few games they're going to lose. But this is one where they'll still be favourites, but it won't be gargantuan because Tottenham want to win this game more than a man in the desert wants a glass of water. They desperately, desperately want to win this game because if they win it, you know, Arsenal could afford to drop, I think I worked out 17 points this season if they want to be champions. They've already dropped points. That means 15 points left. Lose this one, that's 3 points off a total they can drop. That brings us down to 12. So by my reckoning, lose this weekend, they can lose 12 more points. Rest of the season, then it's City, lose that game. That means 9 points they can drop rest of the season if they're going to get to 95 points, which to my mind is the number they need to be champions. So, huge game. To not have Declan Rice for, I couldn't believe the Ferrari, by the way, on the Declan Rice red card. On a yellow card, he kicked the ball away when 𝗀𝗏𝗏 was going to try and take the quick free kick. Yeah, he put some sauce on it. That's footballers. They all cheat and lie and deceive to get ahead, right? That's the game. Is it everyone's first day? Declan Rice got suckered into it and deservedly got the second yellow. Change the laws if you like, but the law's pretty clear. Had to go. So that was really stupid. Losing Ødegaard to injury because of a stupid September international break, I'm sure very frustrating as well. And yeah, there's gonna be issues here. There's gonna be issues. Calafiori probably wouldn't have started, so no great drama there. But to lose Ødegaard and Rice when you're starting midfield, where does that leave you? It leaves you with Thomas Partey sitting deeper in central midfield with Jorginho coming in alongside him. It leaves you probably Leandro Trossard being your starting kind of number 10 player. It leaves Martinelli and Saka and Havertz as your front three. Hey, look, it's still pretty good. That's still a team that I think can beat most teams in the Premier League, and there's every chance they can win here. But to not have that group of players is really, really significant. And in terms of Tottenham Hotspur, doubts about Solanke, doubts about Richarlison. Beyond that, it's going to be a pretty strong Tottenham team. Really impressed as ever by Mickey van der Ven and Romero. I think 𝗵𝗐𝗏, after some personal issues and some arrestable offences, has looked pretty good in central midfield. Good to see him playing somewhere near the caliber of what he did when he was at Brighton, back end of his time there. And I think that James Maddison alongside him has started the season well. Son looks pretty good. So, yeah, tricky. I think I would still favour Arsenal just because they are a better team. They are defensively sound with Gabriel and Saliba and the rest of the back line, their first choice back line. I think they're more than good enough to keep Tottenham out. First goal in this game is going to be absolutely crucial. I don't think it's going to be the washout in the first 20 minutes that we saw last season. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be edgy. I think first goal is going to be absolutely crucial. It screams draw, frankly. It screams draw. The North London derby over the years has often been drawn with both teams scoring. It is a cup final for Tottenham in the most cliched of terms. They are desperate to win it. They are desperate to stop Arsenal winning the Premier League. They are still nowhere near the quality that Arsenal have got. My only doubt is if Tottenham play that stupid 𝗵𝗏𝗏 high line against this Arsenal team with Martinelli and Saka, it's going to cost them. They are going to do that. And so I think even if they take the lead, they'll continue to do it and Arsenal will strike back. So both teams to score. Draw and both teams to score is way above 3-1. So certainly look at those odds. And I also quite like here a group bet of 1-1, 2-2, and 3-3. You get that for 4, which is nice.
Nice one. I was remembering the Tottenham Man City, when the supporters were backing Man City to win just to stop Arsenal to win the trophy. And now they have the chance to get points from their rivals. A great game, this one. We have one more game to analyze. Wolves, Newcastle, with Newcastle as favorites, 2.1. Good start of the season with 7 points. 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐧𝐬𝐿 scoring. We like this goal scorer. Perhaps here is good to go for a low scoring game.
Yeah, definitely low scoring. I think you've got two teams here who haven't, despite the points tally for Newcastle, I wouldn't say I've been wildly impressed by what they've been able to put on so far. I think that against Tottenham Hotspur, they probably should have been thrashed, and Tottenham didn't take their chances. Newcastle came back to win it. I think against Southampton, they really laboured, had 10 men for a long spell of that game. So not been particularly impressed so far with Newcastle, but I do think there is a point where Gordon, Isak and Barnes as a front three will click. And I think Bruno, Joelinton and Longstaff, long campaigners now in central midfield, that's a decent group. They will come good, but it's been a slow start to the season for Newcastle, who I think are going to grow into this season. There'll be a real threat come maybe February, March time. For now, still seems a little bit like they're just waiting to spark. Maybe it's just a lack of new players. Maybe it's just I don't know, the general feeling of what's going to happen in the transfer market. Now that's closed. Maybe it will change. We'll see. But this could be a turning point game for them. If they go there and win it comfortably, I think we could see a run for Newcastle. But for Wolves, I like Wolves. I've got a soft spot for them. I really do. I think that they are defensively pretty good. They're defensively pretty good. I think that despite the doubts I have about the players in terms of Dawson and Mosquera and one or two others, I think they're very well organised, very well drilled. And with two defensive midfielders in Gomez and Lamina in front of Dawson and Mosquera, really hard to get through that block of 4. Going forward, I like Bellegarde and 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻. They become part of almost a defensive 6 for Wolves in some games. And they can also break away. And in people like 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻, 𝗀𝐻𝐻, who I think comes back into the team for this one. They've got some really decent top-level attacking players. So here's my wild card for this week, just because the odds have drawn me in and because they're the home team and because I have a gut feeling for it. Wolves win at 3.2. Straight up, Wolverhampton Wanderers win. I like that, and I'm going to take it. However, if you fancy Newcastle, go Newcastle in a low-scoring game. These are not two teams that have put any of goals away start of this season. It screams 2-1 Newcastle if they are going to win it. That brings you kind of under 4.5, maybe under 3.5, looking at a 1-0 win, 2-0 victory. But I quite fancy Wolves, so I'm taking them at double your money.
Well, okay, we have now our tips for this match day 4 in the Premier League. Remember that you can participate in our tipster competitions completely for free, and you can win some cash money, monthly competitions, yearly competitions, and check if you dare to compete with Tom Rennie, for instance, and his nice picks about the Premier League. Always very difficult to predict. Tom, your safe bet?
Yeah, safe bet this week. Manchester City to win. Easy home victory for them. And I fancy them to give Brentford a bit of a pasting. So put them in your ACCA and you'll do all right.
And the ACCA then will be?
I've not put them in my ACCA this week because I found a really interesting double. There's a really good run of home wins here this week, which you can take, which is Liverpool, Villa, City. But I can only get that for around about 3. And look, take it if you fancy. That's absolutely fine. But I found an away double. Man United to win at Southampton and West Ham to win at Fulham. Really like the look of West Ham. They've got a good record away at Fulham. You throw that in with the Man United to beat a Southampton team who are poor. I found it at 4.67. That seemed really, really long for a relatively likely outcome. So look, if you don't feel brave, go for your home run. But if you do, that's a double for you.
In 𝐿𝐴𝐴𝐻𝐿𝐴𝐻, we trust. Tom, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.